same thing over there, homie.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenido to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful October the 20th, 2020. Round of Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we're doing well here in the South. I was reading earlier today about a woman out there in your neck of the woods in Santa Ana, California.
Yes.
She was 9 months pregnant, Charlton, and she ran a 1 mile in 5 minutes and 25 seconds.
Wow.
I guess she was trying to get out of Donald Trump's way and come into the suburbs. But I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses and doctors and first responders.
Yeah.
They're never running to get out of anybody's way.
They never run to get out of the way. I think she was actually running for the Big C burger. It's all fair and love and war, Big C. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love doing the pause in Big C, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, we got a presidential debate in 2 days, and I would love to hear your President Donald Trump talk about how he's helping the mentally ill military veterans, Charlton, those who are destitute, those who have so many problems. And, you know, we lose some 24 a day to suicide. This is an issue that he will not address.
Yeah.
He will not address on how he feels that the military veterans are important enough to care about, Charlton. He's always talking about the stock market.
Yeah.
But these veterans are not vested in the stock market, Charlton. They're not looking at a 401k. They're looking at trying to get by day.
Yeah.
And many of these veterans are hurting in every way, Charlton, not just from war and military service, but also from this pandemic. And this Trump president who talks about how much he cares about the military and how much he's done for the military, never addresses this issue about military suicide, Charlton, in any of these talks that he's ever done in 4 years. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, because we care. And we want all of Americans to care. We want our government to care. And not only just about our veterans, but everyday American citizens, which he has lost all interest in.
Yep.
We lose dozens of those a day to suicide, Charlton. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is a lifesaver. And we need this to become an American institution that every American wants to give this out to somebody, whether they need it or not. Give it out, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number.
And I love giving ours out. He did say he doesn't like veterans who were captured, the late John McCain. He did say that. But we give that number out, Big C, proudly. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. If you can text, just text the word or text the number 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, just simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get our veterans some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as a home run leader, Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers to put their property listings on TV all over this great country, just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, and sports teams are doing it too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to Big C Sports bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can get some help. Big C, I was just wanted to make sure I heard you right. Did you say there was a woman that was 9 months pregnant in California, and she was running to you, or was she running away from Trump's rally? Your thoughts?
Well, I think she was running away from the Trump campaign, Charles. She ran the mile in 5 minutes and 25 seconds, 6 days prior to giving birth.
Wow.
So when you think about the power of women,
amazing,
and they want to make change and force a new direction in the United States, you have to look no further than the power of women.
Yeah, the power of women. There'd be no men on the planet if it were not for women. Big C, if that makes sense to you. I love women. It's all fair and love and war. I want to have for everyone, please, some people are still not registered. We're having the biggest vote in the history of the universe. And some people think they're going to wait till the voting day and go out, and there's already talk of the grids may go down. In some cities, in California, they call them rolling blackouts. That means nothing works. Get your vote in first. Don't wait till the last day. Text the word VOTE to 26797 so you can get registered. Tell all your friends that Big C in the NFL said get out and vote. Also, all over the world, when you say Big C Sports Podcast, you'll get the app pop up. Just download the app on your phone, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you have iHeartRadio Podcasts. There's so many applications, Spreaker Podcasts, Spotify is all out there. Put the app on your phone, and you can hear Big C's thoughts 24 hours a day. Big C, I know we have a World Series that's already underway. I know we don't give out scores, so we'll touch on that a little bit later. But I do want to get into something that you talked about yesterday. Before we get into some things I want to cover on football. You know what? Baseball, it really is amazing. This is the last major sport we're going to have until the Super Bowl, because we're not having regular season basketball, Big C. Normally basketball would be tipping up now, but they've already crowned the LA Lakers as champions. Tonight is the 116th World Series championship, Big C, the LA Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays, and I know it's already underway and we don't give out scores. Give me your feeling on what you're expecting to see tonight, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, you know, I'm looking for potentially a pitching duel. I mean, Tyler Glasnow is going for the Tampa Rays, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's a huge individual on the mound. He stands 6'8". He's been 2-1 here in the postseason, a 2.66 ERA.
Yep.
But you know, he's been locked in on his fastball, and so he's going to have to be able to find that third pitch tonight if he's hoping to have any success against the Los Angeles Dodgers, because you can just sit back and wait on that one pitch.
Yep.
And Long Ball Alley will be playing tonight for the Dodgers. On the flip side, you got Clayton Kershaw. He's been one of the most dominant pitchers in the regular season in major leagues in the past decade.
Yep.
But the postseason, you know, has been his Achilles heel, and he has struggled. He's been 0-4 in his last 4 World Series starts.
Wow.
So he has struggled. This is a pitcher, if the Dodgers want some success, they cannot let him go past 5 innings tonight, because something psychologically gets on his back.
Yep.
And all of a sudden he falls apart. And you know, he's almost like the Joker when it comes to that. You know,
yeah.
you look at him and he's Jekyll and Hyde. So the Dodgers,
yeah.
if they're going to go with Kershaw, they got to pull him before he gets past the 5th inning.
Yeah, it's always, some people like their steak well cooked. Some people like it medium rare, others like it raw. Don't let him get cooked by those bats by the Tampa Bay Rays. It's all fair and level war. I want to jump back into the world of some NFL football, Big C. NFL Big C's top 10 teams. We just had some great football games. Gotten through a little bit of COVID-19 issues with a lot of the franchises. But I want to start from 10 to 1. Just my opinion. You can give me your thoughts on it. Number 10, coming into Big C's NFL top 10. I would say the Buffalo Bills, even though they lost, I'm still going to put them at number 10, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, they've been on a slide lately, Charlton. They're still leading their division, which gives them some promise to stay in the top 10 in the NFL. They're going to have to find a way to right the ship. But when you look at their quarterback, Josh Allen, who was just in the MVP conversation 2 weeks ago, and now he's fallen off the skid, the middle of that defense, you know, we talked about him with the Kansas City Chiefs, that the Chiefs would be able to exploit that.
Yeah.
You know, people have figured out by watching some game tape how to solve the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, you have to solve the Buffalo Bills, and you bring the Chiefs in town, that can solve them, Big C. I want to bring it out to the West Coast. I don't want to make you throw up, Big C, but the San Francisco 49ers, I know people say the 49ers, but I'm telling you, there's something about their defense, and maybe Jared Goff did take a little trip over to Las Vegas before he flew into San Francisco, but I'm still going to put the Niners in at number 9 because of their defense, Big C. Your thoughts?
This is a team that represented in the Super Bowl last year, the NFC, so they couldn't be that far off the slate. And you think about how well they performed in this game against the divisional foe in the Rams.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo made all the right decisions in this game. The defense was all over Jared Goff prior to the games. The Rams could not mount a passing attack.
Yep.
And the San Francisco 49ers moved back into the top 10.
I'm a little bit shaky about that. I know Garoppolo hasn't lost 2 in a row, but by the time we get through November, that may change, Big C. I want to go to the number 18. And I know sometimes you fall really far when you get beaten up the way they got beaten up down in Tampa. The number 8 team in Big C's top 10 would be the Green Bay Packers, and they're a little bit bruised right now, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you watch Tampa handle the Green Bay Packers, you saw a lot of players on Green Bay's defense not making business decisions, Charlton.
Yeah.
They were just not in the game, and Tampa just dominated them physically. They were all over Aaron Rodgers. He was hit more in this game than he had been hit all year. He threw his first 2 interceptions, also provided a pick-6 for Tampa.
Yeah.
So they had to come back down to earth in this game, Charlton. I know they're still leading their division. They'll right the ship. But, Sunday, they got their hats handed to them.
The last time I saw a beat down that bad, 38 unanswered points, it was down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! And Aaron Rodgers went down to that greedy defense from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to bring you in at number 7, the Windy City's finest. The Chicago Bears, no, they're not the 85 Bears, but this defense is pretty legit, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you talk about a team riding the wave, and that's what Chicago's doing, is riding the wave of defense. They're still trying to figure it out on offense with Nick Foles. Nick Foles is going to get better. They need to solidify their running game a little more. But up until that point, Charlton, this defense is going to hold fast and keep the Bears at the top of their division.
Yeah, they're at the top of the division, Big C. I'm going to take you to number 6. And they play like they were number 1, but they got to climb that mountain first. I'm going to come up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you score 38 unanswered points against the Green Bay Packers, that gets you into Big C's top 6, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, them scoring the points, Charlton, was more about their running games and their defense than it was about their quarterback situation. They're a very talented team. They're still learning to play together, but this defense led by Todd Bowles has been one of the top defenses in the NFL for the last 14 games.
Yep.
So I don't see them letting up any. They're very physical, they're talented, and they stay on top of their opponents. Tom Brady is going to become more in sync with his offensive personnel, and Tampa will most likely win this division if they can stay healthy.
If they can stay healthy, Big C. I want to bring you out to the great Northwest. A lot of people left their hearts in San Francisco, but they left their Seahawks up in Seattle. I'm going to come in at Big C's NFL top 10, number 5 ranking, the Seattle Seahawks. Big C, your thoughts?
When you think about how well their offense has played, Charlton, all year long, I mean, people would wonder why Seattle is not ranked higher. And, it's the way that Russell Wilson has played. But it's their defense that has struggled all year long. They haven't been healthy. They got 5 starters out of the lineup. Russell Wilson has done a lot of magic to keep this team undefeated.
Yeah.
If they can get those defensive players healthy, Charlton, they will continue their run through the season and remain undefeated for some weeks to come.
Yeah, and they're in a tough division in the NFC West. It's all fair and level war. I hear that a raven is on the endangered species list, if that makes sense to you. But on the Big C's NFL top 10 list, they're doing okay. Baltimore Ravens coming in at number 4, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a team that was pressed last week by the Philadelphia Eagles and took them to task all the way down to the last minute of the game. And so, for some reason, the Ravens are not clicking on all cylinders offensively or defensively. They've done just enough to win their past couple of games, but this is a team that can be explosive. Ranking number 4 is about right for them.
It's about right for them. And, Big C, I feel bad because I got a team coming at number 3, the defending Super Bowl champions, and they've only lost 1 game in like the last year, if that makes sense to you. But I'm going to look at how they struggled a little bit against Buffalo. Number 3 is Big C's NFL top 10, the Kansas City Chiefs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they had their first loss of the season 2 weeks ago against the Las Vegas Raiders. They were held in check for most of the game by the Buffalo Bills, but they did come out with that victory, as many people have been touting the Bills and their quarterback as a potential MVP candidate. Kansas City showed that they beat the teams that they need to beat, and that's what they did. They changed up. They went out of their normal and became a solid running team, Charlton, and dominated the Buffalo Bills, and they stay in solid at number 3.
Yeah, they solid at number 3. I want to go all the way to the East Coast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have, in my opinion, this is like the Steel Curtain Part 2. They don't have Mean Joe Green. They don't have Jack Ham and Lambert. And they don't have Mel Blunt in the backfield. But their defense is rock solid, and their offense is scoring points, too. I'm going to come in Big C's NFL top 10. The Pittsburgh Steelers at number 2, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, and I like that position of the Steelers. This is a team that came into the season without their, with their quarterback coming back from elbow surgery, and people question, how good would he be? He's been all that is advertised, Charlton. He has been dominant. Ben Roethlisberger may not have the greatest numbers in the NFL, but he's undefeated.
Yeah.
And he's found a wealth of new young receivers to throw the ball to. James Conner has been dominant at running back, had another 100-yard game last week.
Yeah.
But this defense has been very dominant and intimidating. They've been opportunistic, and it has them as the second-best team right now in the NFL.
Second-best team. Here's a man that likes to get it. You ever get your chest in the wind, Big C? It's nice when you get your chest in the wind. Coming in at number 1 is the Tennessee Titans. They got a good old boy that likes to get his chest in the wind. And you know what they do down south with those barrels. You got to be able to run fast. Tennessee Titans, Big C's number 1, Big C. Your thoughts?
This is a football team that has become a complete football team under the leadership of Mike Vrabel. You think about the number of games that they've won over the last 2 seasons. They've undefeated this year. They've intimidated all their opponents physically. They've scored a lot of points. You would think as a defensive coordinator becoming a head coach that he'd be more defensive-minded. But this is an offensive-minded team. They have an outstanding quarterback who is 13-3 in his last 16 starts. They have a running back who is just dominant that everybody in the league is scared to tackle. And this defense is very physical. They back down from no one, and right now they're the best team in the NFL.
And that's Big C's NFL, Big C's top 10 teams. It may change next week, but that's what we have right now. That's our words, and that's what we're sticking to. I want to also bring up a kind of a shining moment, someone who really is deserving of the Big C burger. NFL defending Super Bowl champion quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Big C, he passed Miami Dolphins Hall of Famer, the great Dan Marino, to reach 90 touchdown passes. It only took Patrick Mahomes 37 games. Marino did it in 40 games. So Patrick Mahomes gets the Big C burger. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he's been an outstanding quarterback. I mean, he spent his first season in the league, sit back and learned, and he had an opportunity to absorb NFL defenses. He wasn't tossed in under the fire, Charlton, and that has made him an exceptional quarterback in the league.
Yeah, it really has. But you know what? Congratulations to Patrick Mahomes. Also, Dan Marino, you're still much loved down there in the south of Miami, Big C. But there's another kid in town. It probably has as much excitement coming to the Miami Dolphins since the great Dan Marino retired, Big C. Miami Dolphins named Tua Tagovailoa the starting quarterback out of Alabama, and also I believe he went to St. Louis High School in Honolulu, Hawaii. Tua is taken over as the Miami Dolphins are beginning Week 8 against the LA Rams. And Swaggy Fitzpatrick was actually playing pretty good, but like a baseball manager, knowing when to put your better player in. Give me your feeling on Tua. Is it too soon or is it just right, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, I think it might be too soon because you're throwing Tua in against one of the greatest pass rushers existing in the NFL right now, led by Aaron Donald. I mean, the team has won 3 games. They're sitting there, just out of first place in the East. I mean, they've won 2 consecutive games in convincing fashion. I could see if Fitzpatrick was struggling, but he's not. So, you look at this. You always want a young player to play at some point. When is he going to get his feet wet? Yeah. But look at Patrick Mahomes. He sit for an entire year behind, Smith in Kansas City. And look how successful he's been. Are you rushing to him? Possibly. If he could sit a little longer, I think he would absorb more of the game and be a more effective quarterback down the road because he comes in against the Rams. He can have all of his mojo destroyed against that great pass rush. And if you're a Dolphin, the way you put a Dolphin in the water, you got to put them in. All fins got to be in the water for them to swim. They're going to see if he'll sink or swim, and we'll see what happens there. I want to jump into some more talk about the NFL. Kansas City Chiefs, they turned to the ground game in the win. Clyde Hilaire, he rushed for 161 yards. Versus the Buffalo Bills, even though they have the great Patrick Mahomes, they used the ground game because that's what was working, Big C. Your thoughts? And that's where the Bills have been struggling, stopping the run. When you look at what was done to them by the Tennessee Titans, just ran all over the Buffalo Bills. And so the Kansas City Chiefs duplicated that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had the most carries of his pro career, 26 in this game, and his highest rushing total, as well as the Chiefs. The highest rushing total they had, I believe, since 2016. So they flipped the script as you walk in and prepared for Mahomes and ended up getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah, they getting punched in the mouth. So Patrick Mahomes, in your opinion, he saw how Buffalo was playing him and defending him, Big C, and that, to me, is why they turned to the ground game in Monday night's 26-17 win. It caused him to have a flashback, and I think that's what Tua's going to learn. But tell me what you're thinking on Patrick Mahomes, why he decided to run more than pass. Your thoughts?
Well, this is more the offensive scheme, laid out by Eric Bieniemy. I mean, the quarterback is out there to execute it. But when you see a weakness from, going down, breaking down game tape, this is what your coordinators are supposed to do. And they recognize the weakness in the Buffalo Bills defense. Why sit there and worry about that vaunted pass rush and just gouge them with the run?
Yeah, sometimes you make all the money in the world, but you win games by having a good running game. The Chiefs, they go to 5-1 on the season, and they ran the ball more than they threw it, only for the second time in Mahomes' 37 starts. They were rewarded with the strategy and the victory. The Chiefs rushed for 245 yards. That's the most since 2012, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is what the NFL is. You got to be able to run the ball when you have that bad weather. Kansas City, we know, come playoff time, is going to have snow on the ground and sleet. So to have a dominant running game, and also Allaire was a little bit motivated because they just, signed Le'Veon Bell, so he knows there's going to be some competition and splitting of time, but he showed he wasn't going to give it up begrudgingly.
Yeah, he was doing his thing, so I really appreciate the thoughts of what's going on in the world of the NFL. I want to take you down to the state of Arizona, but also it has a connection with Texas. Think about this. All Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray does at AT&T Stadium is win. He's like DJ Khaled. He improved his 7-0 all-time at the stadium through Allen High School down in Texas, also college when he played at Oklahoma, and then the NFL rushing leader, leading the Cardinals to 38-10 beatdown over the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, and the Cowboys are in a sad situation right now. This game was all about the Cardinals, offensively and defensively. They did everything that they chose to do against this Dallas Cowboys defense. And when people talk about the Dallas Cowboys, and all the media that was so contentious about Dak Prescott holding out for the contract that he wanted.
Yeah.
I think they're seeing things the way that Dak saw them now.
Yeah. Isn't that something? You don't respect the black man, but when you say, anyone can do it, the black guy can do it, anyone can do it. No, Andy Dalton is not Dak Prescott. And money is money, Jerry Jones. But Jerry's eating his words right now. But sometimes pride, before a man's fall comes his pride, Big C. It's all fair in love and war. Think about this. Murray made another great memory on Monday. He threw for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he wasn't sharp in this game, Charlton. He only had 9 completions. But those 9 completions counted. 2 of them were for very long touchdowns.
Yep.
And when a quarterback is in a groove, he's in a groove.
Yeah.
And, you can see the difference between the two. And when you look at the performance by Andy Dalton, who had an entire week to prepare for this, who everyone talked about was the greatest signing in the offseason of quarterback, Andy Dalton, I think you might have to revisit that question right now.
Yeah.
But I also see this game, Charlton, as the Cowboys moving away from Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's on the trading block in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, he doesn't have that explosive ability that he had when he was at Ohio State. And then if you look at running back Kenyon Drake, Big C, talking about Ezekiel Elliott, Kenyon Drake runs into Jerry Jones Dome, AT&T Stadium, and he puts up 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. He only touched the ball 20 times, Big C. Your thoughts?
This shows the Dallas defense, Charlton. They're like, they can't hold water. And yet, I mean, when you look at everybody on that side of the ball, I've never seen 11 players at one time scared to make a tackle. And yet you watch the Dallas Cowboys and you'll see that.
Yeah. Well, have you ever tried to play football in cowboy boots, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, it's almost like they're playing in tutus, Charlton.
Yeah. It's all fair level war. You do what you got to do. Sometimes what you do in the dark comes out in the light. NFL's top 5 rushers through week 6. I want to give you my thoughts, and you just give me your feelings on it. I mean, I love guys that get their chest in the wind. That's what they say when guys are getting out and running downfield. The top 5 rushers in week 6. Number 1, you have Derrick Henry, running back Tennessee. Think about it, Big C. He only carried the ball 22 times, 212 yards, averaged 9.6 yards per carry, and 2 scores. Big C, your thoughts?
Derrick Henry ain't no damn running back. He's the defensive lineman masquerading at it. And he got everybody in the secondary skin.
Yeah.
Proven by his numbers, Charlton.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie at Big Z. Kenyon Drake coming in number 2, running back out of Arizona, 20 carries, 164 yards, 8.2 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about sending out postcards, I think every running back that plays against the Dallas Cowboys this year is going to be sending out Christmas cards and thank you gifts and boxes of chocolate to the Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, they'll be giving the Cowboys defense, Big C. Number 3, Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU, running back. Kansas City touched the rock 26 times, 161 yards, 6.2 yards per carry. Didn't get a score, but he did have a lot of running yards, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about motivating running backs sometimes, Charlton, and we talked about Hilaire's having the best game as a Kansas City Chiefs running back in almost a decade. He was motivated by the team's acquisition of Le'Veon Bell, and he thought that his role might be diminished, but he was showing the organization that, hey, I can carry the mail.
Yeah, Miles Sanders had a good game, too, for Philadelphia. He had 9 carries, 118 yards. He actually averaged 13.1 yards per carry. That's picking him up and laying him down, Big C. Your thoughts?
And that was against a solid Baltimore Ravens defense. So the Baltimore Ravens are going to have some questions they need to answer on that defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
But Miles Sanders is one of the bright spots on that Philly offense. Maybe Carson Wentz needs to look at him a little bit more.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt when you look at the guys who are getting it done. Number 5 is DeAndre Swift, running back, Detroit Lions, 14 carries, 116 yards, 8.3 average per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Big C, your thoughts?
And, it's a shame that they had this young man splitting time with the ancient Adrian Peterson. Just think about how good this Detroit Lions offense could be if they went to the running game with this young DeAndre Swift out of Georgia and let him dominate and control the clock.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell them a lot of guys running the football, whether it's Henry or Drake or Helaire, Sanders or Swift, they all get the Big C burger. And when you chew it, make sure you chew every last bite because it really is a tasty burger. I love the running games in the NFL, and a lot of guys are doing their thing. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about football and finish up with some baseball as well. And that woman who was running, and she's 9 months pregnant, I tell you, women are amazing. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. I want to take you to, we're talking about football, and then we also have baseball going on. We just crowned the NBA championships. When you think about pro sports, which cities hosted 2 championship parades in 2020? Which one will it be? Will it be the Los Angeles or the Tampa Bay area, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about that, Charlton, the Lakers have already won a championship. So the Dodgers are opening up the World Series tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
On the East Coast, Charlton, the Tampa Bay Lightning has won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So with the Rays now in their 2nd World Series all time, and they're the underdogs. The underdogs have won 73% of the first games in the World Series, Charlton. So the Tampa Bay Rays are hoping to have 2 championship parades in their city this year. The Los Angeles area has done it before.
Yeah.
When they had the Lakers win the World Series and the Dodgers win the Lakers won the championship in 88 and the Dodgers won the World Series in 88.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's a lot of things going on, especially in L.A., and I hope the Dodgers don't regret putting Kershaw on the mound tonight, but it's all fair in love and war, and that's why they get paid the big bucks, Big C. But I want to bounce back a little bit from some baseball. Major League Baseball, the Dodgers tapped Clayton Kershaw to start Game 1 in the World Series tonight. We know it's already underway. And Kershaw will be making his 5th career World Series start. Well, Tampa Bay's right-hander Tyler Glasnow, and I'm giving you my opinion. I just think you've been beaten up so many times. How do you keep putting the same guy out there? But that's just my opinion. Or do you think he turns things around tonight, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, he's been the same guy in every game, Charlton. He hasn't been able to get successfully past the 6th inning. And I think it comes down to the manager.
Yeah.
The manager has to make that move. It started with Don Mattingly when he was, coaching the Dodgers prior to Martinez taking over. But, Kershaw has that 5th inning jig.
Yeah.
Once he gets there, you got to have your bullpen ready.
Yeah.
And once he gives up a hit in the 5th inning, Charlton, you got to yank him at that point.
Yeah, it's amazing how Roberts is going to do what he has to because the management is telling him to. But I know the Dodgers are all tense because they got a man out there. They've seen him lose a lot in the World Series, and that's all fair and love and war. But entering tonight's playoff, based on some of the action coming out of Las Vegas, a lot of the money is going on to the Dodgers. In the World Series, when you think about it, the Rays are not getting a lot of respect from Las Vegas. But if anyone's going to make money in this series, they got to bet for Tampa. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Vegas is kind of smart in how they make their money.
Yeah.
They know where to get you to lay the money so the house can pick up the money.
Yeah.
But if Tampa can come out and have some hot bats tonight, the Dodgers could be in trouble. I don't know if you can consistently keep coming from 2 and 3 down in a series and win them, Charlton.
Yeah, they were stressed just by going up against the Atlanta Braves to go 3 in a row when they were down 3-1. And then they bring the guy that caused them to lose and start from game 1. It's all fair and love and war. But a guy that I love watching, and I have no idea why the Boston Red Sox did not keep Mookie Betts. They have that banner that says Black Lives Matter on the Turnpike in Boston. Major League Baseball's Los Angeles Dodgers, think about it, Big C, their center fielder, Mookie Betts, and also he goes over to right field. He makes $2 million less than the entire Tampa Bay Rays lineup. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you talk about economics and a team winning the old-fashioned way, that's the Rays.
Yeah.
It's not about having the big name stars, the household names. It's about having a bunch of guys playing together. You got to be happy for Mookie Betts making that type of change, Charlton. That cheddar goes good in the back. You don't have to worry about the check bounce.
So
Mookie Betts, he's been an MVP. He's been a World Series champion. The Dodgers gave him a huge contract when they traded for him, Charlton. But this is a battle of a team, not an individual.
Yes, a battle of a team and not an individual. But I'm going to tell you something about Mookie Betts, Big C. He's had 2 stabs at a ball to keep it from going yard, and that's why the Dodgers are still in this game. He's one of the rare outfielders that knows how to time his jump and go up into the wall and still have the ability to catch the ball, and he prevented at least 2 home runs in this series. But I really love watching the way Mookie Betts plays. I want to throw this back to the world of the NFL, and when you think about it, which one of these quarterbacks, I want to get your opinion, which one of these quarterbacks, we talk about money with Mookie Betts and the Tampa Bay Rays, but in the NFL, which quarterback would you rather have? You have Josh Allen making $2.4 million a year with Buffalo, Kyler Murray making only $2 million a year with Arizona, the great Cam Newton making only $1.7 million with the New England Patriots, and then Lamar Jackson makes $1.3 million with the Baltimore Ravens. Big C. Which one would you rather have? Your thoughts?
Well, I would like to compare all those quarterbacks to Andy Dalton, Charlton, of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
The Dallas Cowboys gave Andy Dalton $7 million a year to sign this offseason as a backup to Dak Prescott.
Wow.
And we saw the lackluster performance last night. Andy Dalton showed why the Cincinnati Bengals just freely released him once they signed Joe Burrow. He looked like he was lost last night. Now, this is a guy that's been in the NFL for several years.
Yeah.
But he looked like an untested rookie out on the field last night, playing against a totally confused, the Cardinals defense just totally confused him, Charlton.
Yeah.
But you think about him making $7 million compared to any of those quarterbacks that you just spoke about, and they make just a little over $7 million combined between those 4 quarterbacks, and yet all of them are winners.
Yeah, Josh Allen $2.4 million, Kyler Murray $2 million, Cam Newton $1.7, Lamar Jackson $1.3. And one more thing on Dalton, because I think about it, Big C, and people can say, yeah, whatever. Colin Kaepernick can't get a phone call. 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this last year in San Francisco, and he needed surgery on his shoulder. And then you have Allen, who's really coming into his own. You have Murray, who's going to be a star down in Arizona. We know Cam Newton's been great coming off of surgery. And then we have Lamar Jackson, who's just electrifying. Is this still what people don't want to talk about? A white guy that's washed up, and when he was they released him from Cincinnati because of what we saw on just yesterday, Big C. Is this still that white skin privilege playing in the world of the NFL, Big C? Your thoughts?
It is, and it will always be. You have to understand the last toehold that the NFL has, that whites have in the NFL, is at the quarterback position and at the head coaching position.
Yeah.
These are the things that are reluctantly that's going to go by the wayside by the owners. They will hold on this forever because they think that the drop back quarterback is still a viable stance in the NFL. It's an archaic dinosaur. And Mike McCarthy has proven that all white head coaches are not intelligent.
You know, I want to give your thoughts on something. Mike McCarthy had a chance when he was with the 49ers and to bring out, get Aaron Rodgers, and they decided not to go that route. I think they went with Alex Smith. But at the same time, Jerry Jones has to be thinking, he got Mike McCarthy in. The Cowboys have 2 wins. One was a fluke against the Atlanta Falcons. The other, they came down and kicked the last-second field goal against the Giants before. That's when Dak Prescott tore his ankle, Big C. But he has a quarterback in Dalton that they didn't even want in Cincinnati, and that was a losing team. They were worse than the Cowboys, Big C. So what is it about Jerry Jones that he'll bring in McCarthy and he'll bring in a guy in Dalton that nobody else wanted? That's a lot different than when he had Troy Aikman and when he had guys like Michael Irvin on the sideline and Jimmy Johnson as the coach. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he has 2 people that nobody wanted. Mike McCarthy had been fired the year before in Green Bay. Andy Dalton had been let go in all season in Cincinnati. You talk about the Cowboys' 2 wins. They have 2 wins against 2 teams that are combined 2-10.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
There's nothing to sing about in those 2 victories that they had, beating the Giants and the hapless Falcons.
Yeah.
But Mike McCarthy, who was supposed to be this offensive guru, you got your best offensive player on offense sitting on the sidelines half the game.
Yeah.
And your defense, they couldn't run through tissue paper right now. So
yeah.
I don't see him as a genius.
You ever see how tough tissue paper is lately, Big C? It's all fair level war. NFL, after 6 weeks of play, there are 10 teams in the NFL with 1 or less victory. And you think about how hard it is for some men to even get a job in the NFL, especially when it's coaching. This has never happened in the history of the league. Maybe it's COVID-19, whatever it happens to be. But I got to bring up some teams, and you give me your thoughts. The New York Jets, Joe Namath must be so embarrassed. You have the Los Angeles Chargers, Cincinnati Bengals, Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, Philadelphia Eagles, Big C, the New York Giants, the Washington Football Team, and then the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons. We haven't had it this bad since down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, this is inept. This is the first time in the history of the NFL that you've had teams with 1 or less victories 6 weeks into the season, Charlton.
Yeah.
And it's not about COVID. It's about players. Is what it's come down to. And when you look at those teams, a lot of them have the same common thing, that they've struggled at quarterback.
Yeah.
Defenses have been outplayed this season, Charlton, because they didn't have the work in training camps. And normally people say during the preseason that defenses have the advantage over offenses. But we've seen some explosive offenses here in the first 6 games of the season.
Would you believe only one of these teams has benched their starting quarterback, and that's Hoskins with the Washington Football Team? But his record's just as good as Kirk Cousins, Minnesota, Atlanta Falcons. They're just as good as anybody else. But why is he not given the chance to compete at least for 2 or 3 wins when other guys have been playing a lot longer since he's been benched, and they only got 1 win, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it even speaks of the Washington Football Club. You bench Dwayne Haskins, and Kyle Allen comes in, and he's 0-2.
Yeah.
Kyle Allen had been 0-6 in his previous 6 starts.
Yeah.
So now he's 0-8 in his last 8 starts. And then when you talk about those other teams with 1 or less victories, Charlton, and how many white quarterbacks are looked at, and people say, well, the team is struggling. They don't say the quarterback is struggling and can't get it done.
Yeah.
It's just the status quo of the media.
Yeah, it really is. And I feel that we're the only ones that really talks about it when it comes to that way. Sometimes you do the paperback test and you realize you're getting a lot more money and a lot more mileage out of the African-American quarterbacks, because I brought up some of those players, and I'm not going to dwell on it, but when you look at collectively how they're making over $100 million for a lot of those top quarterbacks, and they only have 1 win, and hey, it's okay because they still get the money. The checks don't bounce. I want to jump down to the world of college football, Big C. Here it is, late October. Just 2 weeks to go to the election. You guys got to get out and vote. Don't wait till the last second. The grids may go down, especially in Democratic-run states, if you listen to what POTUS is trying to tell you. Big C, the trick is look for the familiar, and you can find Ohio State has not lost a game. Rutgers has not won one game, Big C. Something's don't change, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's a typical October in the Big Ten.
October surprise.
Is that Rutgers is normally has no victories. Ohio State is generally undefeated. And they're about to kick off their seasons this weekend. And so, college football will be off to its full slate by the end of the month of all the teams playing.
Of all the teams playing. With the Big Ten returning, college football still faces more of the unknown. At least the fans are no longer trying to beat up the commissioner of the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, this is the desire of the parents wanting their kids out there playing.
Yeah.
A lot of these parents are looking at their kids as a potential financial 401k.
Yeah.
But, this is what all these kids signed up for. They didn't sign up to go to college on a scholarship for academics.
Yep.
They signed up to play sports.
Yeah, they wanted that paper bag and some tennis shoes and a T-shirt. It's all fair and level war. When you think about Big Ten and some of the historic things that we're accustomed to seeing, Michigan and Minnesota, they're playing Saturday for the 104th time in their existence, Big C. And that's a lot of history that they're not going to have to skip this year, your thoughts?
And that's what the tradition of college football is all about. When you look at these signature rivalry games that teams have spent their whole season on, not based on their record,
right,
but playing that opponent, Charlton, that they spent a lifetime waiting to do.
Yeah, and I love football. As far as me concerned about somebody's health, I just make sure I take care of my own health. I know when people get COVID, they're going to do whatever they can to just push through it, and it's all fair and level war. Northwestern University, the great academic school in the Big Ten Conference, they were 3-9 in 2019. They sat out the bowl season. The Wildcats have not played a game in 47 weeks, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they may be a little rusty. You think about that, you've gone 11 months without playing a football game as a program. So when you talk about players not having the time, and you say they were only 3-9 the last season that they played, having that much time off, Charlton, I don't know if the program will grow.
Yeah, they really do make their kids go to class. So 3-9 is not really a failure when you have a degree coming out of that program. Also, some more news that the Big Ten made, and they're just saying, iceberg straight ahead. You have Purdue head football coach test positive for COVID-19. He's in isolation, keeping him away from the players. Head coach Jeff Brom, and it was a presumed positive test. But now, lately, it seems like a lot of guys are getting their COVID test at a gas station, Big C. So who knows if it's positive or not, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, realistically, Charlton, you got to face the facts. Do a positive COVID test mean anything anymore when it comes to the world of athletics?
Nope.
They're going to play the game.
Yeah.
Whether it's delayed, it's not going to be canceled. They'll just move the date. The coach, if he has to sit out, he'll sit out. But, I mean, everybody's become immune to thinking about COVID-19 when you think about college athletics.
Yeah.
The most important point to all of these programs was getting the players back out on the field.
Yeah, and you know what? They got them out on the field. So we had this, you and I were talking about what's more important, your health or your money. I think we've been proven, at least I was wrong. I was saying health's more important. But no, money is more important than health, especially when the people risking their health are not the guys out there making the money, if that makes sense to you. But it's all fair and level war. I want to bounce over to the NBA. The Indiana Pacers, they're up in Big Ten, the country, Big C. Nate Berkson as the next head coach, and he joins the Pacers after working as an assistant under Nick Nurse in Toronto, Canada, Big C, for 2 seasons. Prior to that, he served as a scout for the Raptors up north in 2017, and before joining Toronto, he was an assistant coach with the Phoenix Suns from 2015 to 2017. I wish him nothing but the best, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he was also a coach in the G League. He was a head coach in the G League. But, this is what you have to do sometime in the NBA or in any professional league, Charlton. Stop recycling all the old names because people know them.
Yeah.
You have to bring in somebody that people don't know, and hopefully you can win with them. You think about Nick Nurse prior to getting the job up in Toronto, and everyone talked about firing Casey after winning 60 games, but Nick Nurse brought them a championship just like Steve Kerr did in Golden State when they got rid of Mark Jackson. So you bring in this new blood who brings in new ideas. That's what you have to look at. You're always rotating players around.
Yeah.
You're not bringing in players who've been in the league 20 years and expected them to give your team success. So I think this is a move that Indiana will find some improvement with.
Yeah, I hope that everybody can just get over this COVID. Basketball, I don't know what they're going to do about starting the season next year, Big C, because normally it starts in October. And now that we've had it in, I don't know what they're going to do about starting the season next year, if they're going to start it in spring, or will they just have that long layoff and go into next October. But I know there's still a lot more things happening in the world of the NBA as far as what players are going to be where. It's all fair and level war. But I want to make sure, because it's 14 days away, and isn't it COVID hit us back in March, at least publicly in March, but Donald Trump knew about it on, I think it was January 28th. And he lied about it, just like he's lying about it now, and he chose to say nothing until right around the mid part of March, and he reluctantly did that, and now he's trying to throw Tony Fauci under the bus, who's getting death threats for trying to keep people safe. That makes no sense. Make sure you get out and vote, but in order to vote, you got to register to vote. Text the word VOTE to 26797. Tell all your friends that Big C and the NFL said vote. It's really so important. I know people love games. They love the World Series. We love NBA basketball, NFL football, and college football. It's all fair and level war, Big C. But you believe, when you think about politics, and you talked about that pregnant woman that was running, and she's 9 months pregnant, she was running, Big C. More than 28 million people in the general election ballots have been cast. That's running to the vote, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is what you have to do. This is the only part of democracy that we have in America that's somewhat equal, is the opportunity to vote, and that your vote matters. And if you get out and vote, stop saying my vote doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't if you don't vote.
Yeah.
But you can't have a say-so or complain in this country if you choose not to vote and be complacent with the way that things are.
Yeah.
That you're acceptable of that. So I encourage every American, because so many Americans have lost their lives over the years fighting for people to have the opportunity to go out and cast the ballot freely.
Yeah.
So don't let those people down. Don't let those deaths be in vain.
Yeah, don't let them be in vain. And I'm telling you this, when I still hear, whether it's a politician or a rapper supporting whoever they want to support, that's fine. They support who they want to support. But for people that say, well, my vote doesn't matter and I don't feel like doing it because it doesn't matter anyway, when a 94-year-old did not receive her absentee ballot in the state of Michigan, Big C, she took her civic duty to the next level. Think about this. 94-year-old woman traveled more than 300 miles each way just so she could vote, and there's some people who won't even go 5 miles, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about that, 94 years old, Charlton, and so this is a person who has fought her entire lifetime to have the opportunity to vote, to understand how important it is civically, and to not pass on any election. And so when it's that important to you, that you think about a lady that's 94 years old, who
Yep.
most likely doesn't have the physical ability of somebody who is 29 years old,
No.
to be able to go stand in line and wait for an opportunity to vote, Charlton. That's how important it is. And so you think about in her lifetime, what she has had to endure in this country,
Yep.
as far as bigotry and racism and all the situations where people have obstructed the vote. And she has fought through that, Charlton. She's 94 years old, so she's had the ability to vote for, 76 years?
Yeah.
And not miss an election?
Yep.
That's what, American civic duty is all about.
Yeah, she says she's been voting in every election in the city, the national, state, and county election the last 72 years, and it's amazing. Some people say that there's some famous sports athletes, and they're just going to vote now for the first time because they keep thinking they have enough money so they don't need to vote. But money doesn't matter if you don't have the rights, Big C. It's all fair and level war. Voting's always been important for black women, and I appreciate that, because as my mother voting and realizing that she takes nothing for granted, a lot of times I still meet people that say, well, I don't want to get involved and I don't really follow politics, but they have no idea how much the people who are voting to get in the office, you better understand, they understand politics. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they do, Charlton, and that's what has hurt this country for so many decades, is people, when you think about the voter obstruction that goes on and how they fight to keep people from voting and people
Yep.
become disenfranchised.
Yep.
This is the franchise of America. It is the one bastion of power that everybody holds, the
Yeah.
power of the pen. And when you go out and you utilize that pen, and you not just think about your future,
Yeah.
but think about your children's future and how it will shape them in decades to come.
Yeah, imagine if this confirmation was put through of Amy Coney Barrett, then women will not have the right to decide what happens with their reproductive rights. They're going to have to count on old white men telling them what they can do. I mean, everybody has to understand that, no matter who you vote for. But if you'd rather have someone control what happens to you, guys like Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, I mean, that's crazy how people say they don't vote. I got to bring up something. I've never really been called a bastard. But Donald Trump says to massless crowds down in Arizona, and he said that the pandemic's over. His third wife, Melania Trump, tested positive for COVID-19. She is too sick to travel. You know that knucklehead left his wife and went to a rally anyway in Pennsylvania, I think Erie, Pennsylvania. He left her at home. He just went away and left her at home, Big C. Isn't it ironic that POTUS told suburban white women, suburban housewives, he said, be afraid. And he was saying to black people in his codes. Isn't it amazing he's saying, be afraid of black people? And he is the one that got his own wife sick because he wouldn't pay attention to science. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he's not going to pay attention to science and to tell suburban white women that they need to like him when he puts their children in peril, you know, sending the police after them, you know, because they're out there marching for equality in America.
Yeah.
And telling them to send their kids back to school and potentially catch COVID-19. I don't know why he's going to think that white women in the suburbs are going to like him for doing that.
I know, and think about this, and I know we say we love women. I mean, I love women. My mom, I just love what she's done. All the women in my life, Big C. But think about this. The first lady, Donald Trump's third wife, so that's an oxymoron, okay? She said that she was planning on attending the rally, even though she's still suffering from symptoms of COVID. What kind of reckless person would say, I feel sick, but I'm going to go to this rally to get other people sick when you know it spreads because of this airborne virus? She says she felt sick, but she wanted to go to this rally anyway because he's still sick and he's going to rallies. What kind of message does that tell the dumb people that are going and then going back home to their families? She says she feels sick and she wanted to go, but she's too weak to go. But she was going to go and expose other people anyway, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charles, so this is something you can't do as an American citizen, but I would love to see this, is that you're able to deny medical help to those people who attend these rallies and make them super spreader events that put so much strain on the medical people in these states and cities where Trump is taking these rallies to, because they don't care about other American citizens.
No.
That's how I look at it. They don't care about the safety, health, and welfare of other American citizens. And if they get somebody infected, it would be nice to be able to deny them health coverage.
Yeah, it would be nice, Big C, but you know they got 14 more days of getting the best health care possible, and then they'll be getting out of the office in January 20 when Joe Biden sworn in if people continue to go out and vote. I just think that's so sickening when you're supposed to be, the be best, and you're telling people that you're sick and you wanted to go to this rally, but you're too sick to get out of bed. But you were going to go if you were not.
Her slogan was "Be deaf."
Yeah.
Be deaf.
Be best. Be best.
Oh, I thought it was "Be deaf."
Well, that's for other people who don't have 14 doctors they can get around. I also want to bring up, before we close out on some sports, and this is important. I live here in Northern California, so I'm very conscious about my health, Big C. California Governor Gavin Newsom says that fans, at least 20% capacity for the stadiums, he says they're allowed in California. But Santa Clara County said, not so fast, my friend. Santa Clara is home of the San Francisco 49ers, Stanford Cardinals, and the San Jose Sharks, etc., San Jose State football. And they're saying no fans because the county's going to put science first. Donald Trump says that he doesn't trust science and that media are bastards. Have you ever heard a president of the United States call the media bastards? That's what Putin says in Russia, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, any demagogue can say that, Charlton, but America has gotten to the point that they become mentally immune to the word of COVID-19 because we have heard it for 10 months. It's gotten to a point of critical mass.
Yeah.
You're either going to open up or you're going to close down completely. That's what it's going to come down to. And when you think about the average private citizen out there, when they're saying, okay, you give the athletes the ability to socialize and be together. We can go into grocery stores. We can go into department stores. We can go into work. Why can't we not go enjoy a sporting event? So it comes down to the individual. I mean, I'm not against any of these states or cities opening up the stadiums 100%.
Yeah.
It's almost like going out buying a used car that you can't test drive or start up. Let the buyer beware.
Yeah, that's a good one. But no, you can't test drive it. You just got to drive it and trust. Trust me, I'm a snake oil salesman. I would never sell you that check engine light. That's just part of the ambiance of this new car that has 20,000 miles over than what the odometer says. But people do what they got to do. It's all fair and level war. Big C, I'm going to just bring up this thought tonight before we close out in the NFL, because I miss NFL football when we had fans in the stands. And, of course, they're going to play anyway without fans. Some of us are still playing with fans. But how the new Ryan Tannehill is tearing up the NFL, he had to get kicked out of a situation before he landed on his feet. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is another one of those Adam Gates proteges. When you think about the people that Adam Gates has decided no longer, were worthy of coaching. Tannehill, you look at Anderson in Carolina, you look at Adams in Seattle, and now Bale, who has gone to Kansas City. Ryan Tannehill is much better than advertised. People say, he'll just be a game manager for Derrick Henry. But Derrick Henry is playing second fiddle to Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. Yeah,
there might be fighting words, Big C. I'm still thinking that ground game's helping him win, and that's why he has a lot of open receivers. But after his 15th start Tennessee on Sunday against Houston, would you believe he's 12-3 as a Titan starter? And it's proven he's not just a chains-moving, play-by-play clutch game winner. Another quarterback down south that's not 12-3, that's not that far from Tennessee, is Matt Ryan with the Atlanta Falcons. Wouldn't Arthur Blank wish that he had another choice to choose a different quarterback? Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, there were a lot of pundits in the offseason when Ryan Tannehill got that big 3-year contract, $68 million guaranteed.
Yep.
Down in Tennessee. Wasn't as much money as your cousin got up in Minnesota. But Ryan Tannehill, took his team to the AFC Championship game and battled Patrick Mahomes last year, Charlton.
Yep.
And he's doing the same thing, has his team undefeated right now here in 2020.
Yeah, it's amazing how well he's playing. He even has a better record than Tom Brady when you think about that. Another quarterback that moved down south for some of that humidity, Big C. Highest rated quarterback since opening day in 2019. Ryan Tannehill, 116 QBR. Russell Wilson, 112.1 QBR. The great Drew Brees, 112 QBR. Lamar Jackson, MVP Lamar Jackson, 109.3 QBR. And the great Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes has 106 QBR. Big C, your thoughts?
And that lets you know how well Ryan Tannehill has played. That he is the top-ranking QBR quarterback since starting with the Titans in 2019.
Yep.
And so all of those people who had wrote him off because of the horrible situation he was in Miami under Adam Gates and the previous regime, Charlton, now see that you put a quarterback like this in a stable situation, as he has with Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
He is one of the budding stars that's flying under the radar in the NFL, and he needs to be in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, he definitely gets the big C burger if he keeps doing the way he's doing now. But let's see what it's like when he runs up against a steel curtain. It's all fair and level war. I want to bring up another stat for NFL before we close out tonight, Big C. And I know the World Series is already underway, and people just got to tune in to see what we were talking about. The highest yards per attempt since opening day in 2019. Ryan Tannehill, 8.95 yards per attempt. Dak Prescott, and he's getting better after surgery, 8.26 yards per attempt. Jimmy Garoppolo, 8.2 yards per attempt. And then Russell Houdini Wilson, 8.19 yards per attempt. And then a man who cannot get a job, even though he led the NFL in passing yards last year, but he's African-American. His name is Jameis Winston, 8.16 yards per attempt. Who knew, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, no, really, who knew? I mean, like I said, Ryan Tannehill, when everybody thinks about the marquee quarterbacks in the NFL, all the guys getting the big ink and how much publicity they get, like I said, your cousin there in Minnesota, and here's a guy who's one of the best interception throwers in the NFL. But Ryan Tannehill has proven that he's one of the best winners in the NFL, that he is doing it all. We've seen him pick apart defenses, Charlton. He's been very accurate in his passing, touchdowns, and hitting the open receiver, Charlton, when yardage is needed for first down.
Yep.
He has not put his team in bad situations all year. Really, in the last year and a half, he has not put the Tennessee Titans in a bad situation offensively.
Yeah.
Made the AFC Championship game last year, and right now they're undefeated in 2020.
Yeah, and he definitely gets the Big C burger, and I hear it tastes good with moonshine, so he'll feel right at home when he eats a hamburger that has exotic meats. It's all fair in love and war. I hope we see a great World Series tonight. I hope that everybody stays healthy, no matter what you're doing. 14 days until you can vote. I say vote early because they're talking about the grid going down. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, with college football opening up in its full slate across the country this weekend, Charlton, can anybody realistically challenge Clemson or Alabama in getting to the national championship game? Once again, I want to extend a thank you to our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They always cross the finish line, and no one can compete against them.
And no one can compete against them. You guys, make sure you vote. Make sure your family can vote. Everybody get out and vote. You got to make sure you do that every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please just pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.